Yeah, it was available. It was available, so I joined. I'm just about to start a workshop. I'd really appreciate it if I could just.
Space, I also have a very important thing. I booked. I can show you my booking. I'm really sorry. I checked everywhere, but
I'm really sorry about this. I'm gonna have to leave the.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, Kevin, did you get yourself sorted?
You're on mute.
There we go.
You are? Okay.
Hi. Sorry about that. I got kicked out.
Okay.
A bit unfortunate.
So we're 2 minutes past. We have an hour set. There's a couple of
good.
startups with us today. And
Great.
basically, we have invited all the alumni from Digital Ventures Accelerator. We also have a couple of incubator companies with us and the current cohort. So Stefan, what are we going to talk about?
Yeah, one of the most important things that we see from a startup perspective is that the team is not always exploding as you wish it will, growing, expanding, exploding. It's imploding, just disappearing or stuff like that. A lot of shit happens around the startup team during the startup journey.
And good shit.
And a lot of good shit.
Yeah.
With a great team. Yeah.
And this morning we had pitching sessions for a few of our current cohorts with 3 friendly investors. And I must say that one of the things that came back over and over again was the team, which is what the investors are looking at. And some said, no, I think product market fit and market and stuff like that is more important. But hang on a minute. How do you arrive at the product market fit? Who will steer the course to find the product market fit to actually have something to sell? Well, that's the team, right?
The team.
So if you have an adaptable team that are able to change when needed, you have to do pivots and stuff like that. You can deliver and execute. Well, you have a formula for success. So today we have Kevin with us. Hi, Kevin.
Hello.
I think you're back in the UK now. Is that correct?
That's right. I'm back in London, back at my original home, Geovation, where we
Yeah.
do prop tech, and it's an accelerator program running here too.
Perfect.
Great.
So Kevin is going to run a presentation now for the next 25 minutes or so. And then we're going to open up for an interaction session for the last half an hour, where we're going to be able to talk a bit and ask a few questions and see where we arrive. And Kevin has a very interesting approach for how to build successful startup teams. And I'm not going to take the bang away from you, Kevin. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself and take it from here. Welcome, Kevin.
Welcome.
Thank you. You teed that up really well. I really appreciate it, and it also gives me some context too. I just want to be clear. Is it too noisy here? Can
No,
you
it's
hear
fine.
any background noise? Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's a really surprise. I'm in the canteen area. It's very noisy. All right. Okay. Why don't we just get straight into it? Thank you, everybody, for joining today. I'm going to share my presentation, and I'm going to figure out how to do that now. Here we go. So, okay, let's go to this page here. Right. So you can see that, right? I'll set it to presentation mode. Okay. So just a very quick little bit about me. I think it's my second or third cohort that I've been working with Digital World Ventures on the accelerator. I work with technology entrepreneurs, CEOs, founders, supporting them in the leadership and their teamwork, and also specifically their strategy around product market fit. I've been a coach for about 10 years now. I've had a career in computing and IT, working in engineering, consulting, and finance and banking. And in between that, I was working with permaculture, which is a landscape design. So systemic design thinking is really where I bring my superpowers to bear. So David actually responded to this already. So I hear that there are some of you here that are preparing for your demo day for investment. You might well be somewhere in and around product market fit, but just as David said, key to this is going to be team. And as I put in my title, your ability to scale, your ability to deliver will depend on those around you, because no one person is an island. So how do we go about doing that is key. So that's what we want to talk about today. I just want to give you a little idea of what's in store for you. Some of what I've experienced over the last 10 years of working with startups, a failed investment, and that was because of the actual founder himself. So sometimes the founder can be the blocker to actually seeing the startup idea expand and grow and really land. So there are times where we've got to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, what are we doing as the leader, as the owner of the business, as the CEO? I've also done co-founder mediation, and in mediation with one client that I'm still working with, they've parted way with the co-founder, but that involved an expensive lawsuit, and the co-founder nearly went to jail. It got that serious. I've also worked with co-founders pre-COVID now, actually in this office, where I had to break up a fight. So co-founder dynamics are a really important part to get right. And I even supported one founder to collapse his company because he had a predatory advisor who was really sponging off the business, and you can't have that. So getting your dynamics, your team dynamics, your human dynamics is so fundamental to the success of your business. So the aim of this next, let's say 25 minutes of presentation will be to gain an awareness of how critical your founding team is. And I really want you to leave with a sense of, okay, I get an idea of how I can create an atmosphere where others thrive, how I can get out of the way and empower others to take on parts of the business, because that's so crucial to see happen. And then doing that requires you to provide a leadership to make that happen. It's just really interesting. Yesterday I was here too. I spent some time with one of my first coaching clients. And that was really about nearly 10 years ago. And he now has a team of 20. And it's really interesting to see how all those individuals were so motivated to do their own work without his intervention. Okay, so there are 3 levels at which you want to be thinking about. First of all is what matters collectively as a business uh, to the work that you do. How do you interact? How do you relate? How do you work together as a team? And then you as the leader in the business, what are you doing in the workplace? And also, who are you being in the workplace? It's crucial as a leader to project, to demonstrate, to model how to be in the workplace. So yeah, I love this slide because it really does sum it up. I'm not going to repeat the words, but yeah, when a great team meets a great opportunity, something special happens. And that's really what you're trying to create. And I really saw that yesterday with the startup that I was working with. So what matters to us as a business? So as the founders, the CEO, what really matters is what you communicate, what you project into the outside world, your vision. Okay. And your vision is but what's the world that you want to see? and how does your startup impact that world that you want to see? I can only see my deck at the moment, but perhaps David and Stefan, you can help me. Let's hear from somebody. I'd really like to hear what an empowering vision for the future might be that you as startups see your business being positioned in. David, Stefan, can you help me? Is there anyone with their hand up? If you could put your hand up and just share your vision, unmute yourself and share a vision. We'd like to know, what kind of world do you see in the future based on the impact that your startup can make? Is there anyone that wants to unmute?
Still no hands, but feel free, guys.
Who feels like they're really passionate about what they do?
Here we go. Here we go. We have a hand. We have Pranay. Pranay is based in India via IPC. Go ahead, Pranay.
Hi, Pranay.
Hi, Kevin. Yeah, Kevin. So what I'm trying to build is the patient journey, where we want to smooth or streamline the patient journey when they visit a hospital. They don't need to carry any medical records with them. It's something which they carry in the pocket. Right? It's an application which we are developing. Based on the consent of the patient, they can share the records with, say, different physicians, laboratory, pharmacies, even with the employers. So what we want to see over the period of time is the patient in control of their healthcare data, and they can share it based on their consent with anyone and everyone. And that applies to their family members as well. So that's what. So digitized healthcare data in control of the patient is what we are trying to build. Yeah.
Fantastic, and the world in which we exist in now, what a mess, in the UK with the NHS, every time you go and make a visit, you have to start all over again because data is not being shared successfully. So, can I invite you to find a succinct way of sharing your vision, like almost like with one statement or two statements? Yes, that's what you're working towards. Thank you for giving us the context as a group. That's really helpful. I'd really invite you to find a way of saying this is the world in which we imagine, where patients own our own data and we get to share it with consent. So thank you for that. And then the second part of this is, right, so what are you doing on a daily basis? So you as the leader, you need to have real clarity on this, and you need to be able to articulate it and know that everyone in your team really understands what this is. So your mission is, when you get out of bed, this is what we do every day. This is what we do relentlessly. When the chips are down, this is what we're doing every day, because startup life is so chaotic and there are so many ups and downs. It's a real emotional roller coaster. So pinning your colors to your mast, having a really clear mission. This is what I'm getting up. This is what I'm working on today. Really helps. Does anyone have a clearly defined mission that they would like to share? You can help me again, David and Stefan.
Still no hands, but once I see one, I will let you know.
So come on, who's getting up in the morning feeling empowered and like you are really here to make some change happen?
Yeah, Love has his hand up.
Yeah.
Let's hear from you. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, so I feel very passionate, having worked in healthcare IT, about solving the problem with the fragmentized IT environment, so that building a one kind of interface for medical personnel to speak with an LLM and letting that with agents pick out information from your main medical systems. So there's a lot of jumping around right now, and fragmentation has been known as a problem for a very long time, and I see it as solvable with controlled hosted LLMs.
So every day you're getting up to see that change happen. Yeah, great. And I could see that just by reading this slide, company's purpose, and what you exist to solve that problem. Every single day you're getting out of bed to solve that problem. Yeah? Yeah, great. Thank you for that. Okay, so again, as leaders in your business, you want to organize your daily work around your mission. So I really invite you to build that clear mission, purpose statement, as well as a vision statement. All right. Another key part, this is what I know. So I'm coaching a client right now. There's been a big failure in the business, and a lot of that was down to accountability. Okay, because people hadn't taken personal account for stuff that was happening, and therefore many things fell through the gaps. It was quite shocking, but also a good learning experience, and one that won't be repeated, because now the CEO working with me we're really talking about, okay, now how do we make this happen? So I want to differentiate the difference in my mind between accountability and responsibility. So when I think of accountability is literally, what are you going to be held accountable for? So in your case as leaders, what do I hold the members of my team accountable for? What will they personally take ownership of? So it's that sort of sense of ownership. So any role, so a number of accountabilities ladders up into a role. So in your teams, you have a role, somebody that fulfills a role, and then that comprises of a set of accountabilities. And I want to differentiate that between that and responsibility. And responsibility for me is a collective responsibility. It's how we respond. It's how we collectively respond to any challenge that our business faces. Okay, so responsibility is a group ownership and accountability is an individual ownership. And you as leaders in your business, it's key that you can clarify what is a set of accountabilities for each one of the members who own roles, who may own more than one role in your business. How does that sit with people? I'm just curious to know, because I often find languages, it's so crucial, the language that we use. And I often find people naturally use there's different words to mean the same thing. So, and I know that maybe you're conversing a lot more in Swedish than English within your working environment. Not everybody, but let's see if we can separate that out. When you hear that, the difference between responsibility and accountability, what does that trigger for you? I'd be really interested to hear some feedback. David and Stefan, anybody that wants to speak to that? Accountability. Who's had challenges with holding team members accountable?
I'm keeping my eye out for hands here.
Because there's quite a lot of people on the call.
You will know.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone want to say anything? Accountability. All right. Okay. Who has role descriptions in their organization? Who sort of defined that in a written way? Anyone? Okay, so how do you divide up work? How do you, who has team meetings? Anybody want to talk about team meetings and
There we go.
expectations?
We have a Gabriel here.
Okay, great.
Brave Gabriel.
That's it.
Hi,
Thank you.
Kevin.
Courageous. Hi.
I'm not sure if I will answer the question like
Great.
directly, but I
Yeah.
will just give you
Let's
like
think it through together. Yeah.
top of my head thinking. For me,
Yeah.
when I read this slide and hear you talk, I think a lot about like expectation management in general.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like on the topic
Yeah.
of like, okay, do you have team meetings? How do you? So for me, and I think expectation management is like life.
Yes.
So it's a very broad thing, but very important, I think, in my view of management and yeah.
Yes. So Gabriel, you have a set of expectations of your team members,
Yeah.
right? So your expectations are here, but they might have a different set of expectations of what the role might entail. And this is where there's a misalignment. So you as leaders need to really get clarity on what does the role comprise of, and therefore their expectations matches your expectations. Okay, that's going to be crucial. So whenever ineffective work happens, whenever somebody's doing stuff it's not really their thing to be doing, because often there can be overlap, particularly at the early stages of a startup. So you want to expose that. You want to find a way of describing what the role is and what the set of accountabilities are that go along with that role that ensure that you're aligned with expectations. Thank you, Gabriel. That's helpful.
Thank you.
So we're really here to expand our thinking around these themes. Okay, so don't feel like you can't come forward and share what's going on. We can think it through live together. Thanks for that, Gabriel. Okay, now let's think through some aspects of team dynamics. Right. So as I was saying, you know, we're working towards a vision. We have a daily mission. So that's the sense of alignment. That's about coherence. Okay. So teamwork is about working together. It's about working towards something. We're working towards a vision. We're working towards a mission. So this is where coherence comes in. So that's really important. It's almost like an intangible, but it's critical for success. Right? As your organization grows, you want to see groups of people within the business working together for the same thing. So that's where agility comes in. Are you able to change? Are you able to adapt to changes in the environment? And that's where you want the organizational agility. And you always want to be working towards this, right? Collaboration. And that involves paying attention. So are your team constantly paying attention at the edges of your organization to understand how you interact with those around you, the stakeholders, your customers, right? What's changing in their world? Are you paying attention? Do you have the agility to meet them where they're at and change what you're doing? That's where coherence gets really tested. Does anybody want to say anything about that? I'm curious to know, like, have you seen a responsive team when changes happen for your clients? Does anybody want to share an anecdotal story? Anything you're proud of? Are you proud of a moment where somebody in your team
I think Gabriel
noticed
wants
the
to have a
change?
go again here.
Right.
Please, Gabriel.
I
Gabriel,
got
let's hear
the
from you.
I got the tempo on now, so I will just continue.
Yeah, go for it.
So I mean, in general, I think my experience, I've been working in product for 10, 12 years, and often I would say that change is often met by anxiety in general, I would say. I think it's very
Interesting.
human. It's a human
Yeah.
factor. But I would say when and where it works, where we can see it positive, is like on the culture side, and that
Okay.
is, I think, because this is culture. What I see on this slide is kind of like something you work up, because it's not. You need to work a lot on it.
Yes.
So that's just top of my mind.
Okay,
thoughts.
so I want to pick up on the anxiety,
Yeah.
right? Because we're in business to serve a purpose, to solve a problem, to serve a need. When needs change, we have to adapt. We have to be agile. We need to adjust what we're doing. So that requires collaboration. That requires coherent thinking. But that's about paying attention to the signals at the periphery of our organization. It's about changing and adapting to the needs of our clients. So when you say change creates anxiety, say a bit more about that.
That's a good question. I think my interpretation so far in life is that people don't like change in general.
Interesting. So then you've got to ask yourself, are they the right people to be working in a startup environment?
Exactly. No, and I think that's a good point. And I actually have seen this a lot more in like bigger organizations where it's maybe more,
Fixed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you would expect to see that more in a corporate culture.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
when you're hiring, what you're looking for is those that are adaptable, those that are agile, those that light in their minds, light thinking, not feeling like there's only one way to do things and it's this way. those kind of people aren't well suited to being in the startup environment. So I really invite you when you're hiring to sort of design your hiring process around, is this person agile in their mindset? You know, could you imagine them adjusting and dancing with client changes and with you know, adaptable to the needs of what's going on around them? They're the kind of people you want to work with. Yeah, thanks. Thank you again, Gabriel. Okay. So here's a picture of in Svalbard. There's no Photoshop here, no AI. That was really an iceberg that I took a picture of. And what you're looking at is just 1/10 of the actual iceberg. There's another 9/10 underneath that, underneath the water. So in teamwork, what we want to be aware of is there's a seen dimension, there's also an unseen dimension. And we've already spoken about roles and sort of vision and plans and things like that. But for when we bring human beings together, it's complex. That's what Gabriel was referring to. It's complex when we come together to work together. So we've got to assume, and we've also got to work with what people are not saying or what people don't show when they come together to work together. Okay, so what I want to share in this workshop is a little more detail about what goes on below the water level, the psychological dimension. And so, trained as a coach as I am, this is very much the sort of world in which we inhabit. One great way of surfacing this could be to use a team canvas. So this is something that you could actually do with your teams. And I've provided a blank template in this workshop if you want to download that or go to the link that I've provided. So this would be a good way to sort of start to understand what matters as individuals to the people in the team. Again, yesterday was a great example of that because of the compelling vision that the business and the business leader has. People align with that, and so there's a great match with their values. And so when there's a great match with their values, often you can imagine their needs and expectations are met through doing the work because it's an expression of who they really are. And then can that working environment support them, create the conditions for them to do their best work? And this is a great way of approaching that. So if you were to work with a facilitator who might support you in doing that, somebody outside the business that could help you examine this together, it could help surface certain parts of what team life looks like for you and may help you take another view, a three-dimensional view of what you're doing. Has anyone done an exercise like this? I'm just curious to know, has anyone approached teamwork looking from the outside in to address any sort of challenges that might be coming up? Okay, I mean that does say a lot. It is worth doing. I really understand and appreciate that you're zooming ahead. You know, it's all you're really focused on outcomes. But every now and then, as leaders in business, you ought to press pause, take a pause, and actually zoom out of the organization and look at the team together, look at the whole organization together, and ask yourself, are we still doing what we say we're doing? And is everybody aligned? And are we all on board? So yeah, this is Kotter's 8-step process for leading change. And I just want to share with you this idea that when you're building a story, when you're building the narrative for your business, you are actually going on these steps. So it's something to consider when you're building your vision and when you're communicating your vision, when you're pitching, when you're running a startup, you're always pitching. So having a good aligned story that matches your vision is really important. And coming back to that again and again solidifies it and gives you the the ability to share it. So, you know, really, really feel into what are you passionate about, and what do you hope for the future, you know, and this allows you to take people along with you on a journey to create change, yeah, through your startup. That's really where you want to get to, and that's powerfully motivating. And I want to talk a little bit about motivation. So there are two types of motivation: intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. So your team players in your organization need to be intrinsically motivated. Again, going back to yesterday, that's what I saw. So much intrinsic motivation that alone powers the business to move forward. See, it is a power, it's a motive force. So that's where the word motivation comes from, the root motive. Motive means to move. So I really invite you to sort of develop that for yourselves and then for your business. Yeah, okay. So let's put some focus on your core team. I think many of you are more at this stage where haven't yet quite scaled the business. So you're still a core team of, let's say, 4 to 8. Is there anyone that's bigger than 8? Stefan and David, is there anyone that's bigger than
I
8?
do not think so, but there's a few alumni with us that may have
Yeah.
grown. In that case,
Yeah. Feel free to share with us your team size. But if you're less than 8, you're more the size of a founding team. So yeah, you've probably considered, I'm sure you all have already considered how you're splitting equity amongst the co-founders and also beyond that. Please, if you haven't done, do so, because these are the uncomfortable conversations that you need to be having now, because it really matters. You know, it's a bit like getting married, but without talking through, you know, what's important, your finances within the relationship. So there's a really nice link there that I've shared. And it will help you think through, particularly after your co-founder agreements, what comes next for the first hires in the business. It's crucial to get that right for some of the reasons I shared earlier when things go wrong, because often they will go wrong. And you might not want to think about it now, but it could happen in the future. So it's a really important part to get right. And I'm pretty sure David and Stefan will back me up on that.
100%.
Okay, now, at the heart of any startup is you, the founder. Okay, what you project out into the world really matters, because everybody around you is seeing that and is adopting your style based on how you show up in the workplace. I talked about two parts of it: how you show up and also who are you being. So there's a sort of an internal dimension and an external dimension to this. Yeah, and in that way, you are a lighthouse. Okay, what you're doing is creating magnetic attraction around your vision, around your purpose for being, and you're drawing ships towards you. You're drawing stakeholders towards you, both your team and others, your investors, your board, your community of interest. All of these different stakeholders are moving towards you based on the clarity of your vision. This is coherence, right? Like a lighthouse brings a coherent set of light beams that creates magnetic attraction. Okay, now, so therefore you are the vision holder. Just doing a check on time. And therefore, some of the skills that you want to develop, right? Listening closely, okay? The ability to activate your listening. So listening without judgment. You've really got to get used to hearing what's going on for the others around you. You become the unblocker. Wherever anyone in your team feels blocked, it's your role to unblock what's going on for them so that you can create more flow in your organization. I really like this. So one aspect, because it is only one aspect of communication, is how you give feedback. Okay, so one of the keys to this is taking a pause, breathing. Take 3 deep breaths before you say something that you might regret. And then use this template. I find it so helpful. In my experience, owning it, okay? I speak from the I. In my experience, this is what I saw. What I appreciate, so there you're giving somebody something positive. What I appreciate about what you did, so there's always a good intention behind what people do and how they behave, the actions they take. And then you can say, this is what I was hoping for. So you're really treating that individual with care and respect. Yeah, people in your team, don't be quick to burn those around you because there are consequences. And we've all got our own experiences to speak from relating to this, I'm sure. This is the leadership model that I work with when I work with clients. Often where we start from and where our culture is, our Western culture is leading from the front. You know, historically, this is what we see as we think of as what leadership is, but it's so much more than that. And I believe this three-dimensional approach is really helpful to startup founders and entrepreneurs. Is like, how are you working with your team to step out of the way and create opportunities for them to grow in the organization and develop their own level of expertise and develop their own piece of what you're creating. So this is where we start to step to the side and become a coach, support others to grow within the business, and then take a step back when we can see that's being handled, because it's the only way to scale yourself. You won't be able to do this on your own. You need others around you, and empowering others around you is critical to the success of your business. And now investors will be looking then for that. I'm an investor myself, and I want to know what's the composition of the team, who's doing what, and how are they bringing to bear their personal skill set. Investors are looking at that. So, and that will be, you know, a lot of what your company valuation will be based on will be the team that you've put together and the expertise that they bring forward and how you work together as a team. Investors are trying to understand that dimension, because that often is a lot of what they have to go on when they're making investments in businesses. I'll speed up here a little bit. Take this away. I use this, think of this as a bingo card. Consider how are you being with those around you, and how are you adapting to certain situations. So situational awareness is about, what do I need to bring forward in this moment in order to be the best kind of leader that I can be to support others around. And then this is a little bit extra, going a little bit deeper. You know, I'll just be mindful that any behavior, any actions are based on the three bubbles to the left-hand side. This is the unseen part. So being a little more aware that this is what's going on. We never really know what's going on for somebody unless we take the time to find out. Right, so just a very simple summary then. What matters in the business to us collectively? How are we relating to each other? What am I doing as a leader in the business? And who am I being? What's going on for me underneath when thinking about leadership and teamwork? Okay, that's pretty much it. There's the canvas again. There's some further reading for you. These are YouTube videos, but yeah, we'll call it further reading. And that will give you, expand your thinking around some of the themes that I've touched on today. And now we'll go back to Ask Me Anything.
Right. Thank you, Kevin. Great presentation. I think it was a lot of great theory there as well. And I think it's important now to see how we can translate this into solid action, right? So guys out there, take the chance. Kevin is here, and let's go ahead and ask him some questions. We still have 20 minutes for Q&A. Floor is yours.
Yeah. You know, I'm here to talk about, you know, where do you feel challenged as a leader? Where do you feel frustrated? Where do you feel blocked in your relationships within your business? And where do you think you're not doing the most effective work that you can do?
Yeah. All right. We saw a couple of hands here. I think Maria, you were first, but it's gone now. But did you have a question, Maria Obed? You were waving earlier. Yeah, here we go. So Maria.
I'm putting it up again. Hello, Kevin. Nice to
Hello,
see you.
Maria.
Thank you
What
for
are
the
you
presentation.
doing here? Oh,
So I'm one of the oldies back here.
right. Okay.
So
Great to
I
see
actually
you.
do have a question around because I've done a long journey where I've worked together with people and then I've worked on my own. And what I see the difference is I move a lot faster on my own.
Right. Yeah.
So a little bit like where is that critical, like when it's time to start? Because I noticed that from my previous experience, I'm a lot more hesitant in bringing in more people into the company.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what
And
would you say to
I
that?
share that. I share that. I'm there with you too. I think it's a moment of scale. It's a moment where you've reached your full capacity. If you feel you're operating at capacity and things are working, keep doing that. Why change it? But if you were to change that, it's okay. What could you operationalize? Right? What elements of the business might be more mechanical? You know, so and therefore, who would you bring in to actually do that? You know, there are great people everywhere around the world now. You could be operating a team of 4, let's say, where they are working remotely from another part of the world, where you might not have to spend so much per hour achieving things like, for example, bringing in new clients. So a key function in bringing in new clients is setting those appointments or doing the cold outreach to find those potential future clients. So could that be a function that could be handed over to somebody that you could put a template together for, and you could have them going out there and doing that and really hitting it hard to actually make connections and to book people into your calendar so you could start a conversation about working together.
That's
How does
great.
that
Thank
sound?
you. That's a great answer. And it gives me a second question because when is then the line where I'm better off hiring somebody to do that job and when do I bring them into the company?
Yeah, okay. So there's a point where you can actually design those templates. You can actually practice those and see it working and then hand it over. So when you've got that as a well-oiled machine, that's the moment where you can then say, right now I can hand that over to somebody else, confident, knowing that they're going to take care of it. Now, one of the key things is sales. One aspect of what we're all doing here is sales. Now, the challenge is when to hand over. As you say, there's a point where it might be too early. So you've always got to do your sales first. So until you're ready and until you've templated it, that's the time to hand it over, I would suggest.
That's great. Thank you so much. That's
You're
good
very welcome. It's
answers.
lovely to see you here.
The same.
Maria's daughter and my daughter go to school together.
Great. Thanks, guys. Let's move on. We see another hand here from Pranay in India. Go ahead, Pranay.
Hi, Kevin. So
Hi.
my question is somewhat related to what Maria just asked. So in our team, we are currently less than 10, less than 8 people.
Yes.
We are trying to hire more of a coders. Now, coders are generally youngsters coming up straight out of the graduate schools. They have different style of working. They stay in a job for a very short period and probably may not stay for more than a year or so. So they have a very different working style, different
Yeah.
dynamics. So how do you deal with, say, a person who's at a senior leadership level at tech position, hiring a youngster
Yeah.
in 20s?
Wow. Yeah, okay. So it's going back to some of the slides, it's like, okay, what motivates them? You know, and you'd want to hope it's a technical challenge. So it's like giving them interesting work, you know, it's building them up. It's about asking them, you know, how is this going? It's about getting regular feedback. What you've got to do effectively is close the gap. You've got to sort of bring them closer to where you are, because you want to align them, you want to take them along on the journey. So it's about ensuring, are they passionate about can they see the vision? You know, do they believe in the vision? Are they really demonstrating the characteristics of day to day that they want to be here? Because, you know, this is the challenge of working with Gen X. They're, you know, a little bit softer. They're not so used to working so hard. So it's about challenging them and seeing who steps up. You've got to be ready to fire people as well. I think that's also crucial. is like, you know, let the cream will rise to the surface. You know, there's a sense of entitlement, some might say. But then yesterday, like I said, I was here with a team of 20, and they were so motivated, and they were really getting on with it. It was really quite impressive to see and reassuring. How do you respond to that, Renee? What's your views?
So I like the idea of motivating them and trying to challenge them. I think challenging works. I have seen that working in earlier environments. So give them a short-term goal, maybe for a week or so, and they will come up with a kind of a new ideas, new way of solving the same problem. So
Right,
that
and
does.
that's the key. That's the key, is you've got to give them the space to think for themselves. And so coaching, I think, is really important at this early stage. You know, they need that, I wouldn't say hand holding, I would say shoulder to shoulder. And you've got to continuously be asking them, what do you think? You know, because it depends how you do your coding, because that is a thing now, isn't it? Peer-to-peer coding.
Makes sense, Kelvin. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Pranay. We have a written question here in the chat field from Love. It's a rather long question, so I think perhaps, Love, if you want to come switch on your camera and just ask the question as well, we can take it from there. Are you still with us, Love?
Sure. Yeah, it's
Hi.
I guess it's a little bit personalized, but the gist of it is that I've been doing this alone for a long time, and you know, I have my own funding, and I'll hire someone to do something very specific to get me going to the next stage. But
Yeah.
basically, I'm a technical founder, and I've been able to, you know, almost complete the product, right? And I've been able to get people who sort of, you know, say that they want to buy the product, but you know, it's just a little bit of time there to sort of finalize both sides, right? And I'm thinking about getting a co-founder, a technical person who's more AI involved, but I don't know if I should sort of wait until I have those two things. Do the sort of investors look at a company and see, wait, you don't have a founding team because that person doesn't have a founder level equity.
Questions. Yeah, great question. Yeah, that is a challenge for investors when they see you. They're not afraid of solo founders, but when there's only one person in their business, then there's a lot of risk there. God forbid, but I mean, if something were to happen to you, you know, that's it. You know, that's it for the business.
But
So
does it prevent it? Like, if in this stage, if you do get that other person involved who
Yeah.
has that kind of 5% equity after you've sold the product, does that solve the problem for them, or how can I set
solve
it
the
up in some
problem
way?
for investors, you mean?
Yes, that they see like, oh, there's no risk here because there are multiple
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yeah,
Or
there are
is it-
some SaaS businesses that just don't require a lot of people. So you've been very judicious in your expenditure of financial resources. You've deployed that resource specifically to achieve a task, achieved it, and moved on. So you've shown a lot of business acumen to get to where you've got to, and that's got to be a positive. So they've got to see you in the light. This isn't somebody that's holding back. You know, you're actually growing your organization in a way that works. And some software developments just don't need a large team. This is the incredible thing about software as a service is once you've developed it and built it, it just doesn't require a lot of resource. So the return could be quite incredible for an investor that was to join you on that journey. So I think in your situation, I believe bring someone in, but they've got to be somebody that really takes the business to the next level. You know, if you're talking about somebody with AI expertise, the AI engine that you incorporate into your work really needs to lift the product so that it really does do goes on to do a lot more than it's currently doing. Is that how you see it?
Yes, I mean, I'm just thinking about it like it's going to make the product better, but might
Yeah.
not be this essential thing. And I'm just thinking about should my motivations for bringing someone along also relate to how the company will be treated differently? Will I sort of survive mentally better if I have someone who considers themselves a co-founder, or will the investors look at this and see that, oh, this is only, you know, a CTO level of equity, you don't have a founding team?
Mm. Yeah. What's been your experience with investors? Like, I'm sure you've gone out there to talk to investors. What kind of feedback are you getting from them?
I had only spoken to them as part of this kind of small event in the very beginning of this journey, and everyone asked the same question: "What's the team?" Right?
How long have you
Uh,
been on the journey?
a few months,
Oh, is that
some
all?
months.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, it's a very short amount of time. Okay, and you already, do you feel you've got a product market fit already?
I do not have a very clear, business model,
I
but
see.
I just understand, or I feel like there really is a demand for the product, and it solves a clear product problem.
Okay, okay, so you're very early stage. Have I got that right?
Yeah, I'm not in the accelerator exactly.
Okay, okay. Oh, well, in that
It's actually
case,
part of the incubator. So it's
oh, you're at incubator level. Okay, yeah, I should have asked that question first.
Lova, I can try to answer
Yeah,
also
please, David. Yeah.
from the accelerator point of view. We haven't met before, Lova, but hopefully we'll talk more in the future. But when we look at startups in our own deal flow into the accelerator, we look at the teams, of course. And typically what we do is to see how the teams complement each other. With different skill sets, because obviously it's different things you need to do to be able to have success, right? Because you need to execute on something, and obviously you need to have some kind of a technical knowledge, technical skill sets to see how can you put something together, be it programming, be it operating a no-code platform, or even AI. But that's the CTO technical part of it. We also look at the commercial part. Are you able to take this to market? Are you able to find your product market fit? Because that's very, very difficult. It's one thing to build something, but you need to understand what you're going to build. And to be able to do that, you need to talk to customers and adapt all the time. The third thing you need, especially in health tech, is the domain knowledge. You need to understand what are the dynamics that drives this business. And I can say very rarely do we find these three skill sets in one person. Very rarely. I'm not saying it's impossible, but typically it's 2 or 3 persons that together will form an ideal team. That's our experience on this.
What's your response to that, Love?
It's I've heard some sort of variation on this, and I suppose it's true, right? That you want another person to sort of complement yourself, but the question is just about like, what's the benefit of bringing that person in right now, or just waiting until you have that first customer before you do that?
And that, I think that's a good statement, because when it comes to team, the environments around and the circumstances change, right? So no one is saying it's wrong to be a one-man show early on. But I think throughout time, while you're evolving, you should have an open mindset to see how you can build this team as circumstances are changing. And from an investor point of view, it will definitely be part of it as a kind of redundancy perspective. It's a risk perspective, as you said also, Kevin, that what happens if, God forbid, something happens to you? What will happen to the startup? So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect is how fast you can scale the company in a one-man show. So different aspects like that. And then, of course, Maria was changing before that. Things are working for me. Why do I need a partner? Maybe I should think twice. Yeah, if things are working, there's no goal in itself to have a big founding team, of course. But typically, best practice is that you have a couple of founders that together build a strong team, and you should all have skin in the game. And skin in the game typically is reflected in equity, right, Kevin? So if one of you have 5%, perhaps that person won't be as motivated long term as the one having 55%.
Yeah, but Love, you did pose a really important question. Is like, well, are they valuable? You know, you don't just bring someone in just for the sake of it. They've really got to make a difference to the business.
Yes, so the question is sort of, will that investor look at this and see, okay, you have 90%, one person has 5%, one person has 1%. Do you think that this is sort of a founding team? This is a team, it's a redundant team. It's going to, or will they see this as sort of, no, this is a one-man show just because you have the most equity by far?
Well, I think perhaps you're jumping the gun. You know, I don't think you need to consider investors right now. And I think a lot of great startups start from one person. But there comes a point where, as Maria was asking, there's a tipping point. And if you haven't arrived at that tipping point, don't let it concern you. I think your focus right now needs to be to get to a minimum viable product, to get to a product market fit. Those are some big stages of development, and the journey will reveal the gaps in your ability, and that's when you'll say, I need somebody else. And do you know what? They might even materialize just by the fact that you're out there, testing and figuring stuff out, particularly somebody in health tech, that might come forward as an advisor, and then they might be able to open doors for you, and you might start to consider, perhaps I could add them to an advisory board. It just needs to be fit for purpose, but otherwise continue on as you are.
Okay, then basically don't try to involve someone just right now.
Not for the sake of it, only if they're adding a lot of value. And like I say, if I have this right, your biggest goal is to get to a minimum viable product, where some client likes the look of what you're producing and it solves a problem for them.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Great. I think we have perhaps time for maybe one more question, Kevin. It's a couple of minutes left in case someone wants to raise another question. Anybody? Nothing? All right. Kevin, do you want to say any final words from your end?
Okay, my final parting comment is, what was that phrase that I used? Yeah. To build capability will require other members in the team. And the best way to build an engaged, motivated team will be to have a compelling vision that everyone can get behind and they truly believe in.
That was a few great words there as a conclusion to a great workshop. Thank you very much, Kevin,
You're very welcome.
The hours with you, and thank you everybody for joining. Before we leave, in case any of you wants to reach out to Kevin, is that okay, Kevin?
Yes, absolutely. I've put a link into my diary in the presentation. David, shall I send you the presentation? Is that the best way to do this?
Please do. I can distribute it.
Yeah, okay. Do it that way.
All right then. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Nice to meet you.
Awesome.
Yeah, you're welcome. And
Thank
you
you.
can find me on LinkedIn.
Thank you,
You're
guys.
welcome to join me
Thank
there.
you. Take care. Bye.
Nice to see you, Lynn.
Bye-bye.